How to be happy. That's what we all want to figure out. That's what we're all on this journey for, to seek that feeling that we refer to as happiness, all right? But of course, language is limited in its ability to capture what happiness truly means, and everyone is going to assign their own meaning to this feeling. But I think we can all agree that it is the feeling of joy, all right? The feeling of feeling a feeling like everything is complete, that the glass is full, and that you're not seeking anything outside of yourself to actually experience positive emotions, right? So in my previous two videos, in the first one we went over the grand illusions which are holding you back from happiness, which was the illusion of thought. You discovered that you are not your thoughts, you are something beyond your thoughts. We went over the illusion of self, where we discussed that if a character or description that you associate with yourself changes, but you otherwise remain the same, then that characteristic or description is not you. We went over the illusion of knowledge, which is basically that, we can echo the wisdom of Socrates, who said that the only thing that he knows is that he doesn't know. And that's something we can embrace, to understand that we're never seeing the complete picture and that there's always more to learn. There was the illusion of time, and the illusion of, what was it? It was illusion of time, illusion of control, and illusion of fear. All right, so those are the 6 grand illusions. I won't dive too much into them because there's an entire video, and if you haven't checked that out already, check out How to Be Happy Part 1. Then we went over the mental bugs. All right, these are the evolutionary mechanisms that evolved to keep us alive, but they were put together in a time that is very different from right now. All right, they were put together during a time when our ancestors were evolving in a very harsh environment with dangerous predators and such, and these mental bugs evolved to keep us alive. But in the present environment, they're actually causing us to release the hormones of stress, which are causing us to not experience the positive emotions that we want. All right, so if you haven't checked out the first 2 parts of this 3-part series, I'd recommend that you do so. I'll link out to them below. All right, but in this video, so after we go over the illusions, after we go over the mental bugs, it comes down to the ultimate truths of life. All right, and the thing is that once you can actually open your eyes and see the truth for what it really is, that is when you solve the equation for happiness, and that is when you begin to enter your personal power and begin to experience life for what it's truly worth. All right, so what are these ultimate truths? The first one is that of the present moment. All right, so many of us spend time dwelling about the past or worrying about the future, but the reality is that right now is the only moment that exists. Now, this is something that on an intellectual level you can understand, right? Everyone understands that the future does not exist, that the past does not exist, that the present is all you will ever have. But actually living that idea, actually having the practices in place, actually entertaining the thoughts, actually thought does not exist in the present, but actually living in the present moment is different from understanding that the present is the only thing that exists. All right, so this is why again and again I say that having a meditation practice is essential for you to actually fully thrive in life. If you're serious about improving your life conditions, if you're serious about actualizing your potential, if you're serious about achieving your goals, then you have to have a meditation or mindfulness practice in place that will help you actually get there faster. All right, now the word meditation in itself, a lot of people have the association that you have to move to the Himalayas and go to a monastery, and like if you want to meditate you have to be with the monks and you have to become a monk. But the word meditation in itself actually means to become familiar with. All right, so what are you becoming familiar with? You're becoming familiar with life, and life takes place in the present moment. So you are getting familiar with the present moment. All right, so meditation, it's like, okay, you spend 10 minutes meditating and then you're done. That's not how it's supposed to be. What you're doing is you're becoming familiar with what's going on. You're becoming familiar with what is. You're becoming familiar with the present moment. And the point is to integrate that into your everyday life, not just to go through 10 minutes of meditation for the hell of going through meditation, but to then go and take that mindset and apply it to your everyday life as well. All right, always trying to like being aware of what's going on, being aware of the different trees in your environment, being aware of the positive, being aware of what you're trying to do, and just developing an awareness basically. So that 10 minutes is where you're focused on that task completely, and then as you go about everyday life, trying to integrate that so that you can stay present in other moments as well. All right, so that's the first ultimate truth, that right here, right now is the only thing that exists, and the past, present, they are just figments of your imagination or of your memory. And as we went over, memory is a mental bug, all right, which is influenced by a number of different factors. So that's the first ultimate truth. The second ultimate truth is that of change, all right, because the only constant in life is change, and the only thing that we can accurately predict is that tomorrow will be different from today, and that the moment after this one will be different as well. All right, everything is changing. The only thing in the universe that is true is that change is the constant. I don't think that was grammatically correct, but yes, change is the only constant in this world. Everything is transient, all right? Everything, like the dynamics of your relationship are changing. You are changing every single day based on the experiences you go through. Everything is not how it was the moment before, all right? We can go as far as saying that every single moment that has ever taken place in the universe is completely different, all right? There's no two moments that are completely identical. So what do you do with this information? How can you actually use it, and how can you actually embrace it so that it improves the quality of your life? Well, it ties back for me to the illusion of the self, all right? Now, so many of us have this identity or a character that we've formed of ourselves based on stories about the past and the experiences that we've had. But once you realize that everything is changed and nothing is staying the same, then you can begin to embody the mindset of evolution, all right? Personal evolution, of always changing, because the truth of the matter is that we are in a situation where you are who you are right now, and there is who you want to become, all right? You have these goals, you have these visions of what you want to achieve, but you have this identity that has manifested all that is in your life right now. So if you want to achieve what you want to achieve, which you have not achieved yet, then you literally have to become someone who deserves what you want to achieve. You literally have to change your identity. You literally have to become someone else, because if you remain who you are, then you cannot get to where you want to go, because the person you are is not capable of achieving what you want, all right? So that's something that I've wrestled with a lot, and the point is that change is the only constant in life, so you can't be resisting it. You have to embrace it and figure out how you can use it to actually become who you want to be, because there's always a desired self and there's a present self, and there's a chaos between the two. But once you begin to embrace change and move towards that ideal vision of yourself, then you can begin to experience the emotions, the positive emotions that you want as well, all right? So that's the second truth, which is change, and that is always taking place in our universe. And that brings us to the third ultimate truth. What is it? The third ultimate truth is that of love, all right? Love is all you will ever need. And the reason that love, I'm not talking about love that is conditional, all right? So love that is conditional is based on a circumstance or situation. I love this person because he did this. I love this event because of this reason. So conditional love is actually based on a reason, and reason is based on thought, and thought is one of the grand illusions, and anything that's based on thought is transient and is changing, and anything that's changing that is not consistent is not the truth, all right? So what I'm talking about is unconditional love, all right? And unconditional love is beyond thought. It's not something that can be explained in words. It's something that has to be felt, all right? And so the way I see it, there are actually multiple levels of love, all right? So first of all, the first level of love is self-love, all right? Because if you don't love yourself, then it will be impossible for you to love anyone or anything else, because you can't give something that you don't have, all right? So the way it's been my observation that building this muscle of self-love, I mean, if you can call it a muscle, is basically doing the things that you said you were going to do, all right? Because once you set a vision for yourself, that you tell yourself, okay, I'm not going to eat sugar tomorrow, I'm not going to skip out on the gym tomorrow, and then you actually fulfill what you said you're going to do, that results in an increase in self-esteem and you feel better about yourself. But also on the flip side, it's like when you don't follow through on what you said you were going to do, maybe you set your goals too high or something like that, to have compassion for yourself and not beat yourself up, all right? Because an analogy that Jordan Peterson actually uses is to treat yourself like someone that you're responsible for helping. So I mean, like, if you treat yourself like your best friend, yeah, like, you're not gonna stop being friends with your best friend because he didn't follow through on his commitment. But if he consistently fails to follow through on his commitments, then he won't be your best friend anymore, because yeah, he's not reliable, right? So that's something that you can work on in the relationship with yourself, to follow through on the commitments that you made to yourself, because at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is what you think of yourself when you're by yourself. So that is the first level, all right? Self-love. And I mean, figure out however you want to build that, but yeah, you have to love yourself before you can love anyone else, all right? The second level is loving your friends and family, all right? Now, yeah, we can say that, yeah, we love our friends and family, but a major hindrance to the connection that I've seen and that I've studied, there's something called the iPhone effect, all right? So they brought in a bunch of people and had them interact with each other. And what they did was they actually just placed a smartphone there and figure out how that would actually impact the quality of connection that the individuals would report, all right? And what they found was, just having a smartphone present, even if none of the people that are having that interaction own that smartphone, just having it present results in decreased reports of connection, all right? Now, I've definitely experienced this before, where like I'm sitting at a table and we're like 5 other people and they're all on their smartphones and not only missing out on the present, but they're missing out on the connection that we could have formed. And this is definitely a hindrance to connection. I mean, we're living in an era where we're more connected than ever before, but reports tell us that there's actually more loneliness than ever before as well, because there's not any real connection taking place, because all of our attention is going to our smartphones, all right? So that's something that you can implement. That's how I try to implement. I don't keep my phone around when I'm with my family and friends, and yeah, that's definitely something that can increase the quality of your relationships as well, all right? And then there's the third level of love, all right? And that is when you are having those micro moments of love with, for example, your taxi driver. Just give him a smile, or just give that energy to him, or the grocery store clerk, or when you're passing someone on the street, just giving them a smile, just having that energy transfer over, where you are basically just loving everyone that you come into contact with, all right? And then the fourth level of love, the one that I'm talking about right now, which is unconditional love, is a love for everything and everyone, all right? The ancient Stoics actually had a term for this. They called it amore fati, which means to love one's fate. And it is an understanding that everything in your life, everyone that you come into contact with, is there for a reason. And you can learn from it, or you can learn to resist it, all right? And at the end of the day, the choice is yours. But if you can begin to embody the mindset, begin to embody the emotion of love for everything and everyone, then your life can significantly change. Obviously, it is a practice. It's not something that, like, again, we discussed that on an intellectual level, yes, you can understand it, but actually living it is a whole different ball game, all right? So that is the emotion that we're striving for, unconditional love, because every other emotion that we experience is transient, all right? Every other emotion that we experience is based on thought. Thought is an illusion. So the only real emotion is unconditional love for everything and everyone that happens in your life, all right? And the next ultimate truth is that of death, all right? Now, death is something that many of us fear, many of us have negative connotations with. When someone passes away, we experience those negative emotions. But here's something to think about, man. Without death of an organism taking place, life cannot go on, all right? Death is actually part of the circle of life. And if you look at it, you think that, okay, death, a lot of us tend to think that, okay, death is actually an interruption of life. But if you look at it at a deeper level of analysis, you can say that, okay, maybe you live for what is it, maximum like 120 years. Okay, you live for 120 years, but death actually lasts for eternity. So based on that analysis, it could be said that life is actually an interruption of death. And that leads to the conclusion that how can something so precious as life be that insignificant? And that's when we actually have to dive a layer deeper, all right? So there's something known as the double slit experiment, and that's an experiment in quantum physics, which is the only link that they've actually found between physics and the nature of life itself, right? So basically what they do is they shine photons, which are subatomic particles, to a wall through a barrier with two slits on it, all right? So they're shining some photons through a barrier onto the wall on the other side, and then they actually go and they observe they see how the photons actually ended up on the wall, and they find that the subatomic particles of matter, which are photons, are actually behaving like a probability wave function. Now that is something that really got the researchers riled up, because they're like, yo, how can matter behave like a wave? Because that doesn't make sense. So I mean, physicists are smart, so what they did was they put a little camera to observe how the photons were actually behaving before entering the slits in the barriers, all right? They put a camera, they're like, yo, this doesn't make any sense, so let's see what's actually going on here. So they began to observe the photons before they entered the slit, and then lo and behold, they went and looked at the other side of the wall, how the photons were behaving, and they found that it was actually went back to behaving like matter. So what I mean, that's just my take at explaining the double slit experiment. I'd highly recommend you check out a video on it. But what's the takeaway from this? The takeaway is that observation literally affects the expression of matter. So why is that important? That is important because your perception will form your reality, all right? So there's another thought experiment that you can do, which is known as Schrodinger's cat, all right? So imagine that you have a cat and you have a metal box. You place that cat inside the metal box so you don't know what it's doing, what it's seeing, and then you assign a random sequence of events that, if they were followed through, would lead in some toxic substance being released in that box and the cat dying, all right? So that's the situation. You have a cat, you have a random sequence of events, and you place it in the metal box, and then you just look at it. Then you ask yourself, is the cat alive or is the cat dead? Well, that is what is known as a superposition of states, because until you actually open the box and observe the cat, you cannot know whether it's alive or dead, because there's a random sequence of events that could have led to the toxic substance being released and the cat being killed. So you don't know if it's alive or dead until you observe it, all right? So where does this lead us? This leads us to the conclusion that when unobserved by life, physical matter ceases to exist, and the observation of reality is what actually creates it, all right? This is pretty mind-blowing for me. And let's go to the Big Bang Theory, all right? So the Big Bang Theory is the prevailing cosmological theory of how the universe actually came to be, and it basically states that it started with a single mass that was at a very high density, and it actually expanded to create the universe and every single thing inside it, all right? So the question is, what came first, life or the universe that lives inside? Or what came first, life or the universe, right? So what came first, universe or the life that lives within it? And yeah, that's something that really, when we apply the laws from quantum physics, for example, and the superposition of states, we realize that in order for physical matter to exist, there has to be something that observes it into existence. So what this means is that life actually came before the universe, all right? Now that is a very mind-blowing thing to consider, and when I was reading that in the book, it definitely gave me a lot to think about, all right? That life actually existed before the universe in which it existed. which it exists, all right? That is mind-blowing. And then we have the theory of relativity, all right? So Einstein told us that time and space are actually not separate, and that they come together to form a four-dimensional structure called space-time, in which the past, future, and present exist concurrently at the same time. And this is why our experience of time is completely relative. There's no such thing as absolute time, and every one of us experiences time differently. Our perception of time is different based on a number of factors, like how fast we're moving, the pull of gravity, state of mind, etc., etc. All right? So what's the significance of this? Well, if we say that life ends when death comes, we have to consider according to whose time, all right? Because death is a point in time, an end in time. So according to whose time does it actually end? Does it yours, mine? And we realize that everything is relative. So where am I going with all of this? Why does this matter? Well, it leads us to the conclusion when we take quantum physics, when we take the Big Bang Theory, and we take the theory of relativity and combine them, we realize that yes, okay, although our lives are limited, life itself is infinite. All right, now that is mind-blowing, because life goes on, man. You might die, someone else might die, but life goes on, and that's just the circle of it. And you realize that when you look closely, death is actually your most valuable life coach, because behind the veil of death, all the other illusions, everything that doesn't matter, everything that is insignificant fades away. And there's actually a concept known of dying before you die, and this is the realization that because you come in this world with nothing, and everything that you gain in this physical world will eventually be lost, so you have nothing to gain. So because you have nothing to gain, you have nothing to lose, and that is the truth. And if you allow that to really get integrated into your mindset, then the truth can really set you free, because you realize that you actually have nothing to gain and you have nothing to lose either. And yes, you have nothing to lose, so let go of all the stress, man. That's what it's about, all right? So the next ultimate truth is that on God, and I'm not going to go deeper into that, because Mo actually shares his own views on that within the book Solve for Happy. I highly recommend you check it out. I'll link out to it below. But if you begin to see behind the veil of illusion, if you begin to catch your mental bugs before they happen, and then you embrace the ultimate truths, then you can move towards a life where you're actually experiencing it for what it really is, rather than falling victim to what it isn't. All right, so I hope that this video series has been valuable for you. It definitely has for me, because explaining these concepts has definitely helped me deeply resonate with them as well. So with all that being said, I highly recommend you check out the book, right? Because these videos do not do the book justice. It definitely, like, after reading the book, I was in a state of like enlightenment, you can call it, but like for 3-4 days I was just walking around like that. Obviously it doesn't last, because there's always change going on, and there's always a deeper level, there's always another level. So definitely check out this book, and I hope that this video series has been valuable. All right, this has been Mo Salim, and I'll see you soon.